You attended seminars, and you said your reason there was to learn more about yourself.
Yeah.
My experience. My experience has been people attend seminars, especially self-development seminars, to look for the answer. They want to know, what is it out there I can learn so that I can be more successful? That wasn't your motivation?
No, oddly enough, and I think probably you're right. I think that's what most people are looking for. I think they're looking for an answer outside of themselves, and they're never going to find it. I think by this time I realized it was something in me. I met a man here in Toronto. He was the one that originally got me involved in studying this, Ray Stanford. And he told me if I didn't like the results I was getting in my life, that I was going to have to change me because they were my results. And he said, if you're going to change you, you're going to have to find out something about yourself. And that seemed to make sense. I don't think it was an earth-shattering idea. It wouldn't give anybody a brain hernia, but it made a hell of a lot of sense to me. So I started to study myself. I found most people don't know who they are. They really don't.
What do you mean? I mean, I know my name, I know my age, I know where I live.
That's not you, though. You know, that's just
size,
if you ask the average person who they are, they'll give you their name. They'll say, I'm Bob Proctor, but I'm not. Bob and Proctor are two words. My parents give them to me. They're called names, but it's not me. It's my name. Then somebody will say, well, this is me, but this isn't me either. It's my body. Like, you never phone down here to the studio and say, body won't be in today. It's sick.
Okay.
You know, we don't say am hand or am leg. It's my hand, my leg, my body, my name. Who am I? Well, that's an interesting question. And I believe if a person will start to study that and look for the answer, they'll find it. See, I think we live simultaneously on three planes of understanding. We're spiritual creatures, we have an intellect, and we live in physical bodies. But because we lack awareness or understanding of who we are, we're totally locked into a physical world, and we let things outside of us control us. 95% of the population are reacting to life. They're not really living at all.
Okay, and would you call that one of the barriers to success?
Oh, there's no question about it. I think there's two barriers. Success is a funny word. Nightingale had a great definition for it. He said a person's successful if they know where they are, and they know where they're going, and they're progressively moving in that direction. He said that success was the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Anyone that has a goal and they're moving towards it, they're successful. Most people think that you're successful if you have a lot of money. Quite often you have a lot of money if you're successful, but it isn't. I wouldn't say Mother Teresa has a lot of money.
Okay.
You know, but she's a pretty successful lady. So it's...
okay, so that barrier to success...
Well, there's a couple of them.
Okay.
I think there's two barriers. One is our conditioning. The conditioning that takes place in our subconscious mind from the time we're infants. All we can do is act and talk like the people around us. That's why we learn the language we learned. If there was 10 languages spoken in our home, we'd learn 10 languages without any trouble. There's usually one, and that's the only one we ever learn. And we grow older and we think, oh, I couldn't learn another language. We could learn 100 if we wanted to. You can do anything. But I think we're conditioned. We have a real strong conditioning, usually with not some very good ideas. And then that's the barrier that's inside us. The one that's outside of us is our environment. We have a tendency to act like everybody around us. And if you think about this, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Because if you study statistics, 95% of the people live their entire life and never live the way they want to live. You know that 95% of the population in this country, let's say in North America, the richest continent in the history of the world, they'll work productively, let's say for 40 of their 65 years, and they'll end up with hardly any money. There's got to be something wrong.
So there's not much...
5% of the people end up financially comfortable or independent.
Are you trying to depress us, Bob? Because that's,
No, actually, I think it's quite an exciting idea, because you see, the idea behind it is that anybody can win, anyone at all. But if we start studying these statistics, I think we'll arrive at the conclusion, geez, I better start thinking for myself rather than follow everybody. Most people, they get a job, they look around, they see how everybody else is doing their work, and they start doing it the same way. They should stop and think, I wonder if any of these people know what they're doing. Is there a better way to do it?
But don't we have a need to fit in? I mean, we don't want to stand out. We don't want to get fired. We don't want to make waves.
Exactly. Just fall into line. You know, take a number. Be like everybody around. Now that'd be great in the animal kingdom. But human beings aren't supposed to live that way. I think we should make a few waves. We should maybe stand out, be different. Not for the sake of being different, but because we are different. We all think different thoughts. And I believe we should start to think and build images in our mind of what we'd like to do and then set out and do it.
Okay.
Emerson did that, Edison did that, Marconi did that, Samuel Morse did that, Buckminster Fuller did that. We could go on and on and on. Okay. They were different. They stood out. They made a few waves.
Okay. You started with you saying you started with a search for yourself to try to find out more about yourself, and you were somewhat successful along the way.
Well, I didn't start out like that in the beginning. I started out, I wanted to earn a lot of money. I figured if I had enough money, I was going to cure all my problems. I found that wasn't true. I had a fair amount of problems or money, and I seemed to have more problems. But after working at this for a few years, I decided that the real answer is get to know yourself a little better.
Okay.
And I don't think you have to go off in the Himalayas and become a guru to.
Okay. What did you do to learn about yourself? You said you went around as many seminars.
I attended seminars. Okay. I went and listened to different speakers who taught something about the mind. I think the answer is in our mind if we'll start studying and trying to understand our mind.
Okay. Let me get back to you if I can. What did you learn about Bob Proctor during that study?
Well, I learned that the biggest part of me you'll never see. It's non-physical. And what you see here in the physical body is nothing but the physical manifestation of the higher side of my personality. And of course that's true with you and Nancy's on the camera. It's true of everyone. And what we have to study, I think, is how does this non-physical part of my mind work? What happens when I think? Where do thoughts come from? How was this chair built? Somebody had to think. Thoughts are everywhere. And we pull thoughts into our mind and we build pictures or images in our mind.
Okay.
What we want to understand is that's the non-physical side of ourself that's doing that. If I can build an image of something in my mind, I'm quite capable of building a physical replica of it in my world. So if I build an image of me as a happy, relaxed person, I can live like that. If I build an image of myself as being prosperous, I can become prosperous.
So if we think rich, we will be rich.
Absolutely. We're already rich, just short of money.
Okay, those of us that like to acquire more money and or happiness or whatever we see success, those of us that want to reach the goals that we've set for ourselves, we do it first by...
Well, the first thing you do is sit down and decide what you want. If it's money you want, how much money?
Lots of money.
Now, nobody knows how much lots is.
Okay.
So you've got to be specific.
Okay.
You write down on a card exactly what you want. And you carry that card around and read it often. Now, this is what I learned in this book, Think and Grow Rich, and it's what I teach in the seminars. I'll teach people how to set goals. But you decide exactly what you want. And then you start to think. Now, you're going to have thoughts come to your mind of why you can't get it. Mm-hmm. You have the ability in your conscious mind to reject that idea, kick it out of your mind. Thinking of why you can't do something is never going to do you any good. And keep thinking until you start to think of thoughts of how you can do it. And the way will be shown to you. It comes in the form of images in our mind. Think of how you can and not why you can't.
Okay. So our first step is to set
That's the
some
first
goals.
step.
And think about how we can go about reaching those goals.
Exactly. And just think of how you can. Now, I'd say even before you get into that, you should get a good book and start to study it. Select a person who is already doing something that you'd like to do. Get to know that person. Mm-hmm. Go to the experts for advice. Don't ask the person next door, your mother, father, or brother, or the guy that works beside you, because they don't necessarily know. There's no point in asking a person how to earn a lot of money if they're only earning $10,000 a year. They don't know. If they knew, they'd probably be earning a lot. It's like, don't go to a sick doctor if you want to get healthy.
Okay.
So you find someone that you can go to for advice. Get a real good book and lock into that book and start to study it. Like, I've had this one that looks like a Bible, but this is Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. I've been reading this thing now for 23 years. I'll probably read it for another 23 years. I got another good book that I brought over here today. It's called The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. Now, I'm not getting a commission for selling this. The author's dead now. He's been gone for a couple of years. But Dr. Joseph Murphy wrote this book, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And that's probably one of the best books that you're ever going to find, because you're going to learn something about your mind when you read this book.
Okay.
Now, I read a lot of books. I've got probably 1,000 books sitting in my den at home in my library. But the one that I carry it everywhere I go, and I read it all the time, is Think and Grow Rich. I never stop reading it.
Now, where's the value for you to reread that and read it again? I mean, you must know it well enough that...
I think I could probably recite it verbatim. But the secret is, I once read in a book where it said, when you read a good book through the second time, you don't see something in it that you didn't see before. You see something in yourself that wasn't there before. You see, when I read this, I create a greater awareness. Let me just read you one line out of here, or 2 lines.
Okay.
Hill said, the missing link in all systems of education known to civilization today may be found in the failure of educational institutions to teach students how to organize and use knowledge after they acquire it. He went on to say that we should understand the real meaning of the word educate. It's not going to a brick-and-mortar edifice for 25 years. Okay. That's gathering information. You'll probably develop your memory, but I would question how well you develop your mind. And I'm not against education because I encourage my children to go to school, as we know it. Now, he said the word education comes from the word educo. And he says it's derived from the Latin word educo, meaning to induce, to draw out, or to develop from within. An educated person is not necessarily one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated person is one who has so developed the faculties of their mind that they may acquire anything they want or its equivalent without violating the rights of others. An educated person is the one that knows how to go and get what they want out of life without being selfish.
In sense, a researcher, somebody who knows what they're looking for and knows how to go about finding.
Well, I think we should forever be involved in research because learning is a lifelong process. You never stop learning. Education means to draw out from within. We're drawing on an infinite source. We've got deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. We can learn to do anything. We have phenomenal powers. If we used our body like we used our mind, we'd probably just move our little finger.
Okay. We don't exercise our mind enough.
No. But we're not taught to. Kids in school should be taught, before the school year ever starts, to sit down. They should be given a blank report card and get them to visualize the marks they want to get and write their own report card. This is before school starts. First week in school. And then the teacher should say, now I want you just to concentrate on how to get that mark, and I don't want you to think of why you can't. And I want you to form the attitude that you're going to get it. Now, some people say that's not being realistic. That's being very realistic. That's following the success principles that go back 6,000 years in recorded history. That's how everything was accomplished.
That's not engaging in fantasy thinking, in wishful thinking, in daydreaming we talk about.
No. Well, that's where all greatness comes from. Greatness comes from fantasy. I would imagine that when Edison first saw the light bulb, he was fantasizing. But he kept fantasizing, and he built it into a theory, and then he built it into an image, and then he built it into a fact.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was a kid, it was a fantasy to think of going to the moon. We've been up there with cars, playing golf.
Okay, you mentioned in terms of success principles, attitude, this business of attitude.
Attitude. It takes in the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you act. I'd have a difficult time really explaining attitude right just in a conversation. I use a board in the seminar, and I did an attitude seminar last night. We spent 3 hours dealing with that one subject, so to do it here in 3 minutes, I can't do it. I haven't learned how yet.
Okay.
Let's put it that way.
I recognize it's difficult because we
You have to have a winning attitude, though, Tom.
Okay. In human relations, we talk about the toughest thing of managing people. The toughest thing to deal with is their attitude.
That's right.
That's almost impossible.
That's one thing when management falls down.
But we can't change people's attitudes.
Well, nobody can change another person's attitude. The only attitude we can change is our own. But you see, if management have the idea it's their attitude and we can't do anything about it, then they're not going to do anything about it. But if management arrive at the conclusion, yes, it is attitude, and let's teach the people something about attitude. Let's teach them something about themselves. Let's make them realize that they're worth something, that they're valuable. They're the greatest resource we've got. Companies spend about 65% of every dollar that comes in goes back out on employees and wages and benefits, and yet management knows less about employees than anything else. They know more about the gadgets and the widgets than they do about the people.
Okay, so your suggestion is we develop a winning attitude.
Absolutely.
Can you define that for me, first of all? What is a winning attitude?
Well, if we can understand, let me digress for a second. The whole universe operates by laws, and there's a law of opposites. It's called the law of polarity. Everything has its opposite. There's a right and a left side. There's a front and a back, an up and a down, a hot and a cold, positive and negative, yin to yang. Well, you can think negative or you can think positive, but you can't think both at the same time. You're only going to think one way at one time. And we have to train our mind to think or look for the positive or the good in things. There's good in everything. There's no such thing as no good.
Car broke down on the way over to the station.
There's something good about it. There's something good about it. Now, you may have to look to find out what it is.
Okay.
But there's something good in everything. There has to be a positive and a negative for anything to exist. There's a law of gender that decrees that. Science understands it. It's taught in science.
Okay.
But once we understand that there's this law of opposites, there's negative thoughts or positive thoughts. As the thought energy flows into our mind, we decide what we're going to think. A person's out of work. They can decide to think, I can't find a job, but they can decide to think, I can. If they're thinking, I'm going to find one, then they'll start attracting a train of thought to them, figuring out how to find it. You really have to understand how your conscious and your subconscious mind works in relation to your body or your physical world to understand attitude. Attitude should be taught as a subject in school ahead of reading, writing, arithmetic, or anything else. Because it's a person's attitude that's going to determine the marks they get.
Okay, and maybe part of attitude or related to attitude is this business of self-image, which you talked about.
Yeah. Well, that would, like we were talking about success principles, and I was saying you got to get the winning attitude, you've got to set a goal. Then you have to work on self-image. Now, when we think, we build images in our mind. Dr. Maxwell Maltz discovered the self-image concept as we know it today. In 1960, he was a plastic surgeon. And he realized he was operating on people. He may remove a nasty scar from their face. And he noticed sometimes when he removed the scar or maybe did a nose job on them or something, there was a great psychological change took place in the person. Where they may have been introverted, they started to become very gregarious and outgoing. And he postulated that there must be two images that we have, an exterior image, and we also have an inner self-image. And he started to study this, and he wrote a magnificent book on it called Psycho-Cybernetics. And psycho-cybernetics, psycho being the mind, cybernetics being the science of control and communication. And he goes into this, and he explains how every one of us has an image in our mind of ourself. And it's called a self-image. Too many people don't know much about themselves, and so they don't have a very good image of themselves. And you'll often notice that people will shy away from you. They won't look you in the eye. They'll look down or look up. They'll never try to do anything of any great consequence because they don't think they can. They have a poor self-image.
Okay. Part of that is because through school we're told about what we don't do well. We failed here, we had low grades, or
that
we
could be
only
part
got
of it.
60% or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. I think there's been a great disservice done with the IQ test in that respect when you're bringing out school. Bernet, the Frenchman back around the turn of the century, invented the IQ test, and then we brought it over from Stanford over here, and we'll test a person's intellect, and then we'll brand them good, bad, smart, not, and that's not true. We can change IQs by changing self-images. But yes, if we're told we're not very good, you're just like your dad, you're a bum, you're never going to do well, you didn't go to school, you can't win.
Okay.
That's all that's all false. We can do anything. And we should be encouraging a child. Give them a pat on the back rather than a kick.
Okay, what can we do? Members of our viewing audience right now, most of us walk around with some degree of a self-image. Is that fair to say?
We all have a self-image.
Okay, would you say most of us have a negative self-image to some degree?
Well, let's say we can all improve our self-image.
Okay.
I don't care how good your image is, you can improve it.
Okay, how can we improve it? Something specific. How can we go about making our self-image more positive?
Well, again, you're getting into a whole day seminar. If I could give you just a simple tip on it, if a person would sit down and let their body relax, totally relax,
Okay.
and then start to visualize in their mind, see themselves the way they want to see themselves.
Which may take a good deal of thought. Since we're not
Well, you
sure
relax, yeah.
I mean, in terms of how we want to see ourselves. Maybe we don't know how we want to.
Relate it to something specific.
Somebody we admire, maybe? Or
Possibly.
Somewhere we'd like to see ourselves down the road? Okay.
Yeah, see how you'd like to live your life. See yourself living it that way.
Okay.
Now, understand that that's a picture in your mind. When you pick up a book, the book is nothing but a picture that an author has painted in words. Van Gogh, the great artist, was asked one time how he did such beautiful work. He said, I dream my painting, and then I paint my dream. They get the picture on the mind, and then paint it on the wall, or on the canvas. Well, if we would relax and build the image in our mind of how we'd like to see ourselves, how we'd like to see ourselves acting in life, relating to other people, our social life, see ourselves in the position we hold, or how we make our sales presentations if we happen to be in selling or something, and then take that picture and describe it, write it out in the present tense. I am so happy now that I see myself, and write it out. Now, a lot of people will laugh at this and say, that doesn't make any sense. It makes a lot of sense. They can't tell you why it doesn't. I could spend hours telling you why it does, and I could explain it in such detail that everyone would understand it. But write out a description of how you'd like to see yourself. Start to read it, and read it, and read it, and read it every day. Carry it around and keep reading it. The one point that all the great teachers, all down through history, have all agreed on, they've been in complete unanimous agreement on it, we become what we think about. Now, it may be fantasy at first, it might even appear to us as being a lie. But if you read it often enough, you'll start to believe it. And when William James said, believe and your belief will create the fact, you will see the person's personality change. I watch people in the seminars, personality change right in front of my eyes. And all they're doing is starting to see themselves different. They're starting to think different thoughts.
So our thoughts control our actions?
Oh, there's no question about it. No, our thoughts control our feelings.
Okay.
Our feelings control our actions.
All right. And we control our thoughts?
Absolutely.
Or we can control our thoughts?
We can control our thoughts, yes.
Generally, though, one of our difficulties, one of our problems maybe is that we tend to react to what other people tell us, and we consequently get the negative thoughts, and then that affects our feelings, and then that affects our behavior.
That's right. That's exactly the way it is. We read the newspaper. Doom and gloom's coming. We just accept it. Doom and gloom doesn't have to be coming. Do you know there's always been a depression for some people? I grew up with the idea that everybody went broke in the 30s. They didn't. Some made millions. I thought everybody went out of business. They didn't. Some people went into business. There's always a depression for some people, and there's always good times for others. Let's ask ourselves when we read something in the paper, do I want to get emotionally involved in that idea? If it's a negative idea, I don't want to get emotionally involved with it. I don't read the paper that often. I do, but I don't dwell on it.
You don't get emotionally involved in
No.
to see other
When an idea comes into your mind, whether somebody else tells you or whether you read it in the paper, we should reason with it. Ask ourselves, will that idea help me get to where I want to go? If it won't, reject the idea.
Okay. All right. Bob, I appreciate it. Our half hour's gone by already.
Went fast.
Very quickly. Those that are interested in learning more about your philosophy of success, and I know you do give very specific tips on what they can do to become more successful, are welcome to attend your seminars.
Absolutely. Tell them to phone the office. We run seminars all the time.
Terrific. Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure, Tom. Glad to be here.
Hello there and welcome. I'm Bob Proctor. Do you know in 2006, when The Secret hit the street, it went all over the world. 500 million people have been impacted by that movie and the book. Rhonda Byrne made up her mind she wanted to change 1 billion lives. Well, she's well on her way to doing that. 500 million that we know of have been impacted by The Secret. And the base of The Secret, or the essence behind The Secret, was the law of attraction. After The Secret came out, there was books written on the law of attraction. People were speaking on the law of attraction as if it had never been heard of before. But the law of attraction goes a long ways back. Do you know Andrew Carnegie talked about the law of attraction in 1908 when he was mentoring Napoleon Hill? I started to study this information in 1961. 25 years later, I wrote the book, You Were Born Rich. You can go onto our site, go to proctorgallagher.com, and you can download this book for absolutely nothing. We don't charge anything. I want everybody to understand this information. But on page 109 in that book was the law of vibration and attraction. You see, vibration and attraction go together. Attraction is a secondary law. Vibration is a primary law. Everything vibrates. The law of vibration decrees that nothing rests. Everything moves. We literally live in an ocean of motion. So over the next 30 or 40 minutes, I'm going to go through what I understand about the law of attraction. It has changed my life like night and day, and I believe it'll change yours. A lot of people that are talking about the law of attraction don't understand it in any depth. They may have a shallow understanding of it, but I think you want to know it and know it well. Well, I've been studying it for a long, long time, and I have found that understanding this law will definitely change your life. And by the way, you can go and download the book, costs you nothing. Just go to our site and download You Were Born Rich, because the truth is you were born rich. Most people are just a little short of money, but we all have deep reservoirs of talent and ability within us. The Proctor Gallagher Institute is all over the world. You see my globe here, it just keeps moving. Well, we do too. And we have people that represent our company all over the world. You see, it was way back in 1961 that I actually started to study that. That was 55 years ago. And I've never stopped studying it. I have found this information to be absolutely fascinating. Now, over the next 30 minutes, I'm going to ask you to really think. And why should you? Well, because you can have virtually anything you want. Now, before we get into the law of attraction in any depth, I want you to stop and think about the goals that you're working on. See, most people are involved in A-type goals. A-type goals are going after what you already know how to do. You'll often hear a person say they've got a goal to get a new car. Well, you might ask them, have you ever had a new car? Oh yeah, I've had 2 or 3 of them. See, they've known for a long time how to get a new car. That is not a goal. That may be something they want to do, and they certainly should if that's what they want. A goal is something that we set that's going to draw the best out of us. Goals are not to get. That's a side benefit. Goals are to grow. Well, generally, if a person graduates from going after what they know how to do, they go after what they think they can do. I call that a B-type goal. Now, doing what you think you can do, there's no inspiration in it. There's no real growth to it. It's sort of a little game of manipulation. If she does this, if he does that, if I can get this, then I could reach this goal. I want you to really understand this law. And when you understand it, you're going to start to operate on a totally different vibration. You're going to move into a whole new world. You're going to start stretching. And that's what you really want to do. You see, you are God's highest form of creation. You have been built with mental tools that enable you to create. That's the C-type goal, a creative goal. This is going after what you really want. You don't know how to get it, but you know you're going to get it. Now stop and think in history. The Wright brothers didn't know how to get the plane in the ground, but they knew they were going to get it in the ground. Ed Hillary did not know how he was going to get to the top of the mountain, but he knew he was going to the top of the mountain. What do you really want? Now think. Just come along with me and daydream for a few minutes. And then I'm going to show you some of the rules that you can follow. Stop and think of this. Do you think Steve Jobs knew how to do this before he did it? No. He couldn't tell you how he did this until after he did it. And that's the same with anything in life. People that have done great work didn't know how they were going to do it. Roger Bannister didn't know how to run the 4-minute mile until after he had run a 4-minute mile. And you know the strange thing about it, within months, somebody else was running a 4-minute mile, and I believe now we're running the Boston Marathon in under a 5-minute mile. So pretty soon they'll be doing that in a 4-minute mile. What do you really want? I want you to think about the dream home. I was talking to a young lady in our company, Lisa, and she was telling me, I said, Lisa, what do you really want? And she was telling me about the home. She started to describe it. I said, go after it, Lisa, go after it. How about the trip you want to take? Or maybe the business you want to build? Do you see, I remember my brother-in-law and sister in their early 50s. He had built a safety supply company for 3 other people. He had run them and built them, but it was a job. And an opportunity came up to buy a small safety supply company. He was very nervous. He was in his early 50s. But they hucked their house. They borrowed money. They took everything they had and plowed it into this company. Today, they're multimillionaires. They're virtually retired. They still work at it, but their son and grandsons run that business. And it's grown into a beautifully big business. It would never have happened if they hadn't followed their dream. I want you to follow yours. Understand this. If you can see it, you don't have to know how to get it. Your life will change. You see, you're a whole lot more than what you appear to be on the surface. Now, that would be a photograph of you if it was taken with a Kirlian camera. Semyon Kirlian perfected a form of photography where he photographs the body. And you look so much different than in regular life. You see, you're so much more than you appear to be or even think you are. You already have within all that's required to attract, literally. You already have within all that's required to attract whatever you want into your life. Now, I want you to think of this before we go any further. There's only 2 sources of reference to go to find out anything about yourself. One's science and the other's theology. Both of them clearly indicate nothing is created or destroyed. If nothing's created or destroyed, then everything's already here, if not in one state, another. Here is a plastic bottle full of water. The plastic used to be oil. The water used to be air, ether, gas. I could take and I'd boil that water and it would go right back to where it came from. Now think about that for a moment. The water, the bottle, and my body are all made from the same thing. It's energy. My body is energy. Hold your hand in front of you and look at it. Do you know that hand is changing at the rate of millions of cells per second? Just like that, it's changing. How is yours changing? You cast off millions of cells, 40, 50 million cells per second, and you recreate more. Well, do you know that we can create the life we want? We can put ourselves into the vibration that we have to be in to attract what we want to attract. Think of this. If I hit my phone, hit send, and I had your number on it like that, the message would be on your phone. How's that happening? It's happening through vibration. That's really how it's happening. Well, our whole world operates that way. It's so phenomenal. Now, I've put this together. This is sort of an overview of what I'm going to do. I think it's kind of cute, and I put it together for you. I want you to keep your eye on the ball. Keep your eye on the ball. Understand this. We're dealing with the mind. Nobody's ever seen the mind. No one has ever seen the mind. The mind and the law of vibration are 2 things. When you start to understand them, everything starts to improve. When you really understand them, you take control of your life. You've been given the ability to do that. All you have to do is learn how. And I'm going to show you how here in the next 30 minutes. Let that drawing, that circle, represent your mind. There's 2 parts to it. If you notice that, there's a horizontal line right through the center. Let's put a body on it. We'll say that's the body and the top half is the mind, and we'll bring it down here to work with it. See, there you've got your conscious mind. Then you have your subconscious mind, and then the instrument of the mind, because that's what the body is. And the body moves into action and produces results. See, the body acts according to the vibration it's in. Now, this may sound a little out of the box, but stay with me, and I guarantee you'll understand it. If I can learn it, you certainly can. Now, not only are we getting the results we got, but we also have a picture in our mind, a dream. We've got this beautiful star that we want to shoot at. And you see, that dream is up there, but it's up there and it's on a different level. It's an invisible world. It's where only one person can see it, you. Only one person can see it, me. Earl Nightingale put it very well. I spent 5 years working with Earl. It was a marvelous experience. He said, this great dream, this surging, dynamic thing, invisible to all the world, except to the person who holds it, is responsible for every great advance of humankind. Now, you see, this is the world we relate to down here. This is the visible world, the physical world. And we live through our senses. We go by what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch. We get a report card, and we let the report card tell us what kind of students we are. We graduate from school, and the report card becomes the balance sheet or the bank account. Let's understand that anything we see outside was originated inside. That's right. Now, it's the space here that we want to close. We want to understand how to close that space. How do we go from where we are to where we want to be? That's rather an interesting question. You see, this is where the attraction starts. It starts here in the non-physical world. Now, this is a mind game. You must understand the mind if you're really going to make it happen. And when you study this and start to understand it, then you attract according to the vibration you're in. And you'll start to understand that. You control the vibration. Your brain is an electronic switching station. As you activate brain cells, you alter the vibration you're in. As you alter the vibration, you alter what you attract into your life. So you see, you've got to understand how to control the vibration. And you can do that. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to give you a quick lesson in it. And when you get it, everything will change. Way back in 1934, the same year that Simeon Kirlian perfected the form of photography, where you can photograph mass and photograph the energy leaving the body, there was a doctor down in San Antonio, Texas, Dr. Thurman Fleet. He wanted to understand the mind, and he wanted to understand paradigms. See, paradigm is a mind program. It's a program in your subconscious mind that's controlling your behavior. Think of this for a moment. You already know how to do better than you're doing, but you're not doing it. Everybody does. See, the part of our mind that knows things and the part that controls our behavior, two different parts. That's right. So let's talk about your power, your mind, and your paradigm. The paradigm is the programming in the subconscious mind that controls our behavior. Now, Fleet understood this, and he was very much into holistic health and very much into metaphysics, and he said nobody's ever seen the mind. The mind is an activity, it's not a thing, and no one's ever seen it. He said, I am going to eliminate confusion. I'm going to make a picture of the mind. And he drew a picture. He says, just use your imagination, and this becomes the mind. Now look at that. Do you know that this is the most magnificent idea I've ever come across in 55 years of studying ideas? I've got a beautiful library here. I have another one in the house. I'm in my studio right now. And we take that circle and we draw a line across. And then we say that's the conscious mind, that's the subconscious mind, and then there's the body. Now I want you to really play with this. That is without question the most valuable idea I've ever learned. Leland Bell van der Waal, who's gone now, God bless him, he shared that with me. See, I had been studying with no formal education, no business experience. My income went from nothing to over $1 million a year. I was cleaning offices. I just wanted to earn some extra money. But I started to use this information, and the business started to grow. I was living in England, and I wondered, how did I do this? I knew that I wasn't that smart. I'd been raised to believe if you're going to earn a lot of money, you've got to be really smart. I wasn't that smart, but I was earning a lot of money. I was raised to believe if you don't have a good formal education, you'll never get a good job. Well, I didn't have any formal education. I had 2 months high school. I didn't have a good job. I owned the company. I did not believe that there was an emotional or capricious God that reached out and blessed me, and I didn't think I was lucky. So I made up my mind I was going to figure out why I changed, and I started to study, and I never stopped. I was living in Chicago. I left my business and I went to work with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant because I knew that they knew something I wanted to know. And I was working there, and somebody told me about a guy in Vancouver, British Columbia, so I jumped on a plane and off I went. As soon as he opened his mouth like that, I knew he knew what he was talking about. When the meeting was over, it was a couple of days, I went and asked him, I said, could I spend a couple hours with you? And I remember him looking at his watch, and he said, I'd like to spend a couple hours with you, but he said, I got to catch a plane. And I said, I got to catch a plane too. I don't mean right now. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm going home. He said, where do you live? And I said, Chicago. Well, he said, what are you doing out here? I said, I come out to hear you speak. I think he was impressed that I flew so far to listen to him. He said, I'm not going to be in Chicago anytime in the near future, but I'm going to be in Toronto. And I said, I'm actually from Toronto. I'll come over there and see you. It's only an hour away. And so I flew over. The two of us sat down, which was going to be for a couple hours. We were there for about 3 days. And he started to show me things about the mind. Everything I had studied for over 10 years was all coming together. And if you follow what I'm teaching, if you really listen to what I'm saying, everything you've studied is going to come together. So let's take a look at this. There's the drawing, and we'll say there's the conscious, the subconscious, and the body. Now, the conscious mind is your thinking mind. That's the part of you that thinks. That's also what we call the educated mind. Okay? This is where the intellect is resident. Now, the intellect is something most people really don't understand. We should, but we don't. We've got intellectual factors. We have these higher faculties. I'll talk about them in a minute. We are not taught to use them. We are taught to go by what we see, hear, smell, taste, and touch. We are trained, literally trained, as little kids at home and then in school, to let the outside world control us. We are programmed genetically at the moment of conception. See, all mom's DNA and all dad's DNA comes together, it becomes your DNA, my DNA. And then 280 days later, we make our debut on the planet, and we're programmed from outside. Now listen, our subconscious works quite different than the conscious mind. The subconscious is our emotional mind. Now, you're going to want to learn more about this, and we certainly teach a lot about it. I'm just going over this so you'll understand this law of attraction. Now, we've got the ability to think. We can think anything we want. Every great leader that has ever lived has been in complete unanimous agreement on this one point. You and I become what we think about. They've disagreed on virtually everything else. Because we have that ability to think, we can choose. Now, go back to the thinking for a minute. Viktor Frankl wrote a marvelous book, Man's Search for Meaning. He was a Jewish psychiatrist that spent war years in a concentration camp. He said that no one, regardless of the intellectual or physical abuse he's subjected to, no one could cause him to think something he didn't want to think. See, that's where we have the ability to choose. We have the ability to accept or reject everything we hear. Everything we hear on TV, on the newspapers, or everything we overhear is something somebody tells us. And if we reject the information, we have the ability within us to originate new information. Now, all that is true in the conscious mind, accept or reject, not on the subconscious. Your subconscious mind must accept everything that's given to it. And that's the universal mind. That's what controls the vibration you're in. Whatever information you impress, you must accept. It has no ability to reject. Now, think of this. Your subconscious mind cannot differentiate between what's real and what's imagined. Whatever you impress, whether you imagine it, whether you hear it, read it, if you get emotionally involved in it, it's real. Now that's pretty wild when you think about it. You see, it's what you impress upon the subconscious that controls the vibration you're in. The vibration you're in is the frequency that you're operating on. If you are operating on a negative frequency, you're going to feel bad. Feeling is a word we invented to describe our conscious awareness of the vibration we're in. We all vibrate. We're on a level of vibration. Become tuned into your own feelings. Become aware of what is happening. If you don't feel good, you have the ability just like that to alter the vibration you're in. You can change the ideas in your mind, and when you do that, everything in your life changes. Now let's look at this for a moment. This is rather interesting. Albert Einstein said something pretty interesting. He said that everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. He said, match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not a philosophy. This is physics. Match the frequency of the reality you want. Now, what does science and theology teach us? Nothing's created or destroyed. So everything's already here. You see, Jobs and his engineers just had to get on the frequency that this was on. And we haven't. Look at what I'm doing right now. Do you know, I am here in my studio. And the studio is something that I built in my mind. It was a dream I had. I was sitting out under an umbrella one summer day, and I looked into my backyard and I started to build a picture of this studio. Well, you know, today I have a studio here where I can operate 4 cameras at the same time. Everything that I'm recording is streaming into a computer in another room, different room than I'm in. I have all the lights here. I have everything I want. The man that's running this computer right now for me is in Phoenix, Arizona. Joshua Carr. He's our IT guy. He's a genius when it comes to this stuff, but he's in Phoenix. We have a lady that is watching me do this on her computer in Dallas, Texas. Mikey Steller, who's in charge of creative, is in Dallas, Texas, and she's watching me do this. Now, I had done this yesterday. I've actually done it twice. But she made some suggestions of alterations that I might make in the presentation that would help you understand this better. And so I rewrote it. I changed it. I didn't rewrite it. I just altered the whole plan. And I said I'll do it over again because I liked her suggestions. She's watching this in Dallas, Texas. There's just a little, 10-second delay on it. But she's in Dallas watching it. Josh is in Phoenix watching it. And I believe Sandy Gallagher, my business partner, is in Sun Valley, Idaho, in her condo, and she's watching me do this here. We will take, when this is finished, and distribute it all over the world. Now, I had the image of building this studio where I can broadcast. It's like a mini television set. I can broadcast all over the world from the studio. Now, there's a train not too far from here. I didn't want any sound. I didn't want a train or something outside, a plane going over, interrupt what I was doing. So this is what we call a floating cell. They built the building, and then they built a building inside the building. The building is soundproof. It's all built. It was an image I had in my mind. I found the people to do it. What did we do? We changed energy into energy. Now I want you to think. Match the frequency of the good you desire. Remember I said build the dream in your mind? Well, now we're going to get a little more serious about this. Let's look at this. You are a mass of energy, and you function on frequencies. You are literally a mass of energy. You are. And you function on frequencies. Now, I want you to let lines, horizontal lines, represent the frequencies. That represents you, and you're in a high speed of vibration. Now, think of this for a moment. A frequency is a level of vibration. Okay? Let's go back. There you are. You're in a high speed of vibration. Now, you change your vibration, and the color and the density of that energy leaving your body will change. You can cause it to change color, and it will go a long way out if the energy is strong. Okay? A frequency is a level of vibration. The good that you desire is on a frequency. That's what Einstein said. Match the frequency of the reality you want. Now, think of this for a moment. There are literally an infinite number of frequencies. There is no end to them. So look at it here. We see all of these lines, and we're going to say they all represent frequencies. Okay? There's an infinite number. Just stop and think of the number of frequencies we got. That's what a phone number is. It's a frequency. It's how you tune in on their frequency. You have to have my number to tune in on my frequency. This is being broadcast on a frequency. Now, here's something we really want to understand. Every frequency, or every one, is connected to the one above and the one below. They're connected like the colors of a rainbow. There's no line of demarcation where one stops and the other starts. Now, you may be saying, well, what's this got to do with my dream? It's got everything to do with your dream. If you have been stuck, if you have had a difficult time altering your income, if you had a difficult time attracting into your life the relationship or the business that you want, it's because you're on the wrong frequency and you're using the wrong tools. You're going by what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Look at what Einstein said. He said the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. The rational mind is a faithful servant. This is so true. We've created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. What is the gift? Your higher faculties. You have perception, memory, imagination, reason, intuition, and the will. These are all high mental tools. Through imagination, we can zip ourselves onto a higher frequency. We just use our imagination and build a picture of the good we want. And then we hold that picture with our will. The will is what gives us the idea to focus, to concentrate. When President John Kennedy asked Dr. Wernher von Braun what it would take to build a rocket that would carry man to the moon and bring him back safely to Earth, von Braun said, the will to do it. In other words, you've got to see it and hold the picture in your mind. You will attract everything you need. That's just the way it works. You've got these higher faculties. We want to learn how to use them. Okay? It's a beautiful concept. It's an absolutely beautiful concept. Now, I want you to let that X represent where you are. The X represents where you are in your life, okay? Take an honest look at where you are in your life, and you can see how you got there. Take a look at the income you earn. Now, you know people that are earning a lot more money than you, and they're nowhere near as bright as you. You know them. You know people that have built very successful businesses, and they don't seem anywhere near as smart as you. I was talking to Brian Sidorsky on the phone. He has built a very multi-million-dollar business, and he wants me to work with him to go to the world through junior achievement, the JCs. They're all over the world. And I said, I'd be glad to. We're going to share this information. Now think. Let's think of this for a moment. Where you are. You know how you got there because you can look back. You can connect the dots looking back. Let each one of those lines represent levels of vibration or levels of awareness. And you know how you got there. You can just see all the footsteps that took you from one place to the other. You know how you got there. Then you think of your dream. And the dream is out there in space. And you have no idea how you're going to get there. Now, when we were little kids, we'd go to our parents or our guardians, Mommy, Daddy, I want, and they were busy, and they'd say, oh, how are you going to get that? Well, of course, we didn't know how we were going to get it. Why don't you be satisfied with what you've got? You should never be satisfied. Dissatisfaction is a creative state. It was dissatisfaction that gave us the incandescent light. It was dissatisfaction that gave us this means of communication. But we grew up with the idea, if you can't get it, forget it. And so 90-some% of the population have forgotten it. And we just let the dream go. But here's what you want to know. If you can see it in your head, you can hold it in your hand, because that is the frequency. Match the frequency of the good you desire. Now stay with me. You may want to watch this videotape 100 times until this really sinks in. And through repetition, you'll say, oh, now I see. Now stay with me. Look here for a moment. The moment your belief matches with any state, you fuse with it. And this union results in the activation, projection of the plots and plans and conditions and circumstance. The moment your belief, when you understand this, our belief system is based upon our evaluation of something. And frequently, if we reevaluate a situation, our belief about it will change. Through watching this, through the repetition of watching what I'm going through here, you change your belief about yourself. That's how I changed my belief. I've never stopped studying for 55 years. The moment your belief matches with any state, you fuse with it. Well, there's the state you want to fuse with. That's where the dream is. That's a frequency. There is a place. You can use that. You can get your imagination. You can go there. You see? The moment your belief matches with any state, you fuse with it. You become one with it. It becomes one with you. And this union results in the activation and projection of its plots, plans, conditions, and circumstances. When you change your vibration, everything in your world changes. This new state of conscious awareness becomes your home from which you view the world. This new state of conscious awareness becomes your home from which you view the world. You're there in your imagination, and that's how you see it. That's how you see it. It's such a beautiful concept. In your workshop, and if you're observant, you will see outer reality shaping itself upon the model of your imagination. Isn't that beautiful? It is your workshop. That's where it is. This new state of consciousness becomes your home from which you view the world. It is your workshop. And if you're observant, you'll see the outer reality shaping itself upon the model of your imagination. Now watch. This is so important. Just stay with me here. Stay with me. When you move on to a higher frequency, you will be communicating with a world totally foreign to and beyond the reach of your five senses. It's a different world. You cannot communicate there with your sensory factors. Nobody's ever done it before. You're dealing with the unseen. You're dealing at a creative level. You're not going to figure this out with your intellect. You're going to have to use your intuition. You're going to have to follow your feeling. See, intuition is that mental faculty that picks up vibration. You ask a question, the answer's there. That's a law of polarity. This whole universe operates by law. On page 109 that I told you to download the book and read it, there's a quote there by Werner von Braun. I quoted him in The Secret. He said, the natural laws of this universe are so precise we don't have any difficulty building spaceships, sending people to the moon, and we can time the landing with the precision of a fraction of a second. See? When you move on to a higher frequency, you're dealing in a different world. The people you're mixing with don't understand you. They're going to tell you you're crazy. See? Do you know, if you go back far enough, I think it was Samuel Morse was taken before the United States Congress by some of his good supporters, and they tried to get $30,000 for him to build some wires down around Maryland where he could stop and start the flow of energy, and he was going to show how you could communicate through wires. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da. Morse code. Helped win the Second World War, by the way. He had a senator stand up in Congress and say they'd be further ahead to give someone $30,000 to build a railroad to the moon. He got more support than Sam Morse got. People didn't understand. What was the problem? Ignorance, not knowing. Now, Sam Morse did a little better than Marconi. When Marconi suggested he was going to send a message from one place to the other, he wasn't even going to use any wires. He was just going to send it through the medium of the molecule on a frequency. They had him checked out in a mental institution. Now, both of them did better than Gordiano Bruno, who back around 1600, he was spreading Copernicus theory, who said that this ball wasn't the center of the whole scene of things. They burned poor old Gordy at the stake. Listen, all down, whenever a person makes it through in their immediate environment, the people think they've gone crazy. Well, let's look here for a moment. Okay? There you are there. There's the conscious mind. The subconscious, that's where your intellect is. That's where you get what you want. And then you have the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind, you must understand, is where the paradigm is. And of course you have the body, which is the instrument of the mind. Okay? Now, the law of attraction is always working. It's always working. The law of attraction, though, responds to the paradigm. What do we mean by that? Well, the paradigm, the program, is what controls the vibration that your mind body's in. And it's the vibration you're in that dictates what you attract. What we have to do, if we want to change things, we've got to take and make a new paradigm. We've got to shift the paradigm. I'm writing a book right now with Sandy Gallagher on changing paradigms, paradigm shift. When you do that, then the whole world changes. Then you're operating with a new paradigm, and you start to attract new things. Now look here for a moment. This is rather interesting. There's the drawing, okay? There's the drawing. We'll put the horizontal line across, okay? And we've got the body, okay? Now the body is really the instrument. Here on the conscious level, that's your imaginative mind. That's where the imagination, that's where you go onto that higher frequency, okay? It's beautiful the way it happens. Here you have the universal mind. That's your subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the imaginative mind. The subconscious is the universal mind. Now, the body is the instrument of the mind. It is actually the instrument of the mind. And we've got to understand that. Now, our imagination, there's a power flowing into our consciousness. And through our imagination, we build the image of what we want. This is the dream. I see what I want. And I've got this beautiful dream. I impress it upon the subconscious, and it turns into a desire. So you don't get what you want, you get what you desire. Waddell's pointed out in the Science of Getting Rich, the desire is the effort of the unexpressed possibility within, seeking expression without, through your actions. Well, that desire is expressed through the instrument of the body because it changes the vibration the body's in. The vibration causes you to act, and the action sets up an attraction. And it's the action-attraction that alters the results. Now think what we're saying here. The desire alters the vibration. The vibration changes the action. The action sets up an attraction. And that's what changes their results. You see, the law of attraction works intellectually, your intellectual mind. You start thinking, you'll start attracting more thoughts on that frequency. It operates on an emotional level. You start to attract more energy. You move into a higher vibration. And of course, it changes everything on the physical level. It's pretty interesting, isn't it? Now, remember what we said? Don't go for that goal. Get up here. Okay? Build the picture. Build the big picture. Now let's go back where we left off. Remember when we let that go? We don't want to let it go. Because we can fill it in. We can literally fill it in. Now the man that made these iPhones and everything, Steve Jobs, he was pretty tuned in. Okay? He was pretty tuned in. He had a big goal, and he said, look at this. You can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. And if you understand the law of vibration, if you stay on the frequency, if you hold the dream in your mind, and you don't let the outside world control you, you will contract everything that you need, and that space will fill in. The way will be shown. I believe that was written in the Bible. And when you get there, here's what you want to understand. You could have gone there. Isn't that a beautiful concept? You could have gone there. You see, you and I only have one problem. Ignorance. We don't understand. You watch this often enough, you're going to get a grip on the law of vibration. It's going to change your life like night and day. It put me in this studio. It's helped me earn millions of dollars. I'll be 82 on my next birthday. I got more energy than most people, 22. I have no intentions of slowing down. I've got this globe in front of me to remind me we are building an organization all over the world. And if you want to work with us, if you want to do what we're doing, you just let us know. Because we've got a great business opportunity. We are teaching and facilitating this all over the world. Do you know that the only thing that slows us down, we're only limited by weakness of attention and poverty of imagination? Wow, that is so good. Weakness of attention, poverty of imagination. Subscribe to YouTube where we are, because we're going to make a lot of these videos, and we'll send them to you. If you're on our list like that, when you get them, they'll come to you. There's a certain group of people automatically get these. As soon as I do them, we send them out. We're not selling these, we're giving them away. I want you to understand what I understand. I've had an absolutely phenomenal life. Along with my business partner, we built a phenomenal company. We operate in over 100 countries. But we haven't even started. We're going to build this so big. We have a phenomenal team of people in our company. We have attracted some of the most beautiful people you'll ever want to meet. You know, it's a funny thing. I have made 2 or 3 versions of this, but I keep altering it and fixing it. I was in a super mall or a mall the other night, a couple of nights ago, and my wife was buying some cosmetics, and I was just sort of hanging around waiting. And this woman, I could see her circling around. She was pushing a stroller. And she came over and she said, "Do you know who you look like?" And I said, "No, who do I look like?" "You just look like Bob Proctor." And I said, "Really?" I said, "That's because I am Bob." She said, "You're not Bob Proctor." And I said, "No, I'm Bob Proctor." She said, "Show me your identification." Well, I couldn't get over. I thought this woman was a cop or something. So I thought I'd humor. I took out a credit card and showed, and she was going a little nuts. Her name was Shelley. And so I've asked Joshua to send Shelley this video. She loves studying our material. So Shelley, you and all the rest of the people in the world that love our material, God bless you. We want to keep it coming. And we want you to keep studying it. We want to expand the thinking of everybody. But clearly understand the law of vibration. When you understand the law of vibration, your whole world will expand. This is Bob Proctor. Thank you.
Check us out at ProctorGallagherInstitute.com for tips, tools, and resources.
And welcome, everyone. You know, this particular subject is the cause of all kinds of problems for people, and it's cause of all kinds of joy for others. We've got to grasp the idea that everything that comes into our life, we've attracted. We attract everything that comes to us. And we attract it because we're in harmony with it. Think of this for a moment. Take this stuff. Most people are not in harmony with money. They're really not. The average person is struggling all the way through their life. And they saw their parents struggle, and they're doing the same thing. School does not teach us how to earn money. Most people's attitude towards money is very confused because they really don't understand. And we've been raised to believe you go to work to earn money. Just go to work. Well, going to work is not the answer to earn money. And if you have any question about this, I want you to think of somebody that's working real hard. When I say that, I think of somebody maybe in the southern part of the hemisphere where it's very, very hot. Might be up over 100 degrees. And they're on the road with one of those jackhammers breaking up concrete or something. Those people don't earn very much money. Now, that's just about as hard a work as you're going to find. You provide service to earn money. You don't work. You provide service. I want you to think of some of the great recording stars. They earn millions, literally millions of dollars. And they really don't work at all. They sing, they get together and they jam with different groups, and they go on stage and they sing. But they got their recordings playing all the time. Millions of people are being entertained. And that's why they're earning so much money. They're providing a service. Well, we want to hit on that. We want to hit on attitude. We want to hit on the laws. So let's really take a look at this today. Here's what I want you to stop and think about. I want you to look at the areas of your life that your paradigm has an enormous control over it. Your paradigm controls your perception, and your perception is your reality. It's how you see life. I love the way our dear friend Wayne Dyer, he's gone now, God bless him, but he put it very well. He said, when you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. And of course, that's right. That's your perception. Perception is one of those higher faculties. It's like perception, the will, reason, imagination, memory, and intuition. That's what makes us who we are. That's what separates us from all the rest of the animal kingdom. They operate by instinct, which is perfect. We've been given these higher faculties, and through the proper use of these higher faculties, we can create our whole world. Now, your perception, it's how you look at something that's going to determine your reality. Well, your paradigm controls your perception. Now, let's take a look at this. Your paradigm controls your use of time. You know, everybody gets exactly the same amount of time. They get all there is. So it's what we do with our time that really makes the difference. Our paradigm controls our creativity. Now think of this for a moment. When I was a kid in school, I went to a public school in Toronto, and in grade 8, I was leaving, and I was going to go into high school. Miss Strawn was my teacher. She was a lovely lady, and she said, "Bob, where are you going to go?" And I said, "I'm going up to Melbourne Collegiate." "Oh, Bob, don't go there. You will never do well in the business world, Bob. Go to Danforth Tech and get a trade." I mean, I didn't know. I mean, I thought this woman was like God. She knew everything. And I went to Danforth Tech. I was there less than a month, and I shoved this thumb into a bandsaw. Cut the end of it off. They sewed it back on. And you know, when it's cold, that still hurts. All these 50-some years, 60 years later. Now, Miss Strong was wrong. Here was a person in a position of authority, and I was letting her influence me. I'm actually extremely creative. I've done very well in the business world. I've helped some of the largest companies in the world increase their business by millions and hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, this is no joke, and I've worked all over the world. So she couldn't have been more wrong. So I went out until I was 26, knocking my head against the wall, trying to figure it out. You are creative. You've got all the creativity there is. There's no one that's more creative than another. It's just that one person's utilizing their creative ability more than another. Okay? Your effectiveness. That's controlled to an enormous degree by your paradigm. Just how effective you are. You see, your paradigm is the program that controls your behavior. And it's your behavior that dictates how effective you are. Now, as you improve your effectiveness, your productivity goes up. Now, this is all controlled by paradigms. This controls our attitude. It controls everything. Now, keep going here. It controls our logic. That's why everyone thought the Wright brothers were actually crazy. Here's two bicycle mechanics, and they're going to fly through the air. The American government had spent millions of dollars attempting to figure out how to get a plane in the air. They couldn't do it. It was believed it couldn't be done. But those two Wright brothers, they worked with the law. They had the they stepped aside. They didn't let logic stop them. Well, make up your mind. That's this idea of you've got to be realistic, that you've got to be logical is a bunch of nonsense. You don't have to be logical at all. I've been totally illogical many times, and it's helped me earn a lot of money. It's helped me have a lot of fun. You got to bust out of that. Now, the last part here, it controls your ability to earn money. You see, one of the first things I ask a person if I'm starting to work with them, what is the most you've ever earned in a year? I don't really care what the answer is. It doesn't make any difference what the answer is. But I want to know the answer because that is going to tell me where their paradigm is set. Your income is a reflection of your own paradigm. And if you want to change your income, you've got to change the paradigm. And you may not believe that, but it's still true. Keep in mind, I've studied this every day now with some of the most brilliant minds in the world. Now, it almost appears as if there's a box around those areas, and every time we go to move one of them, we hit the wall and bounce back. Now watch closely. What you want to do, when you decide to change the paradigm, just the decision is made, the wall comes down. Now that doesn't mean you've changed anything, but the wall comes down. In other words, when you go to move in that area, you're not hitting the wall, you're able to go and move. Now think of this. I want you to just imagine for a moment. Watch this carefully. I want you to imagine how much your life will change as you begin improving any or all of these areas of your life. That change is going to be huge. It will be huge. And get this, the change is going to be permanent. This is a beautiful thing to know. Look at, when Ray gave me this book, and he got me studying it, and my income started to go up, up, up. It's never gone back. Now, I've made mistakes and lost, but I just keep moving ahead. The change is huge and it's permanent. You've often heard the saying, you can't go back. Well, that's not physically. That's mentally. You cannot go back mentally. Because you see, what you're doing is you're creating an awareness. And once you become aware, nobody can take that away from you. Once you become aware of how money's earned, nobody can take that away from you. Once you become aware of what the wealthy people really know, nobody can take that away from you. Now think about this. This is very important. Okay? If you just changed your perception, you really work at that. How could you do that? Well, I'll give you an exercise you can do. If I have a particular challenge that I'm really wrestling with, I will take my pen and write out my problem as I understand it, as clear as I possibly can. After I've got it written out, I'll put it in the center of the desk, and I'll go and sit on the other side of the desk. And I'll look at it, and I'll say, how would it? And I'll look at it from a totally different perspective. Then I'll go and sit in another part of the table, and I'll look at it. I'll say, how would Napoleon Hill look at this? And what I'm doing, I'm shifting my perception of the situation. And you know something? Problem usually goes away when you change your perception. And that's when your income starts to go up. It's so beautiful, and yet it's so misunderstood. Now, Napoleon Hill talks about the big money. And he has an excellent article written on it in his materials. And he's talking about the people that get into the big money. They lock into a power of life. And he said the power could be compared to a river. And he said, except that one side of the river flows in one direction, and the other side of the river flows in the other direction. Now, if you're in the side of the river that takes you to poverty and wretchedness, he said you could use this concept as an oar to flip your boat over onto the other side of the river. And he said the other side of the river leads to prosperity, leads to opulence, leads to all the good things in life. And he pointed out that it's really our attitude, it's our perception, it's the way we look at it. If you want to get into the big money. Now, big is a relative term. If you're earning $100,000 a year and you go to $300,000, that's a big jump. If you're earning $20,000 a year and you go to $60,000, that's a big jump. See, it doesn't matter what the numbers are. It's how you view it. It's how you look at it. Now, let's think of this for a moment. We've talked about this. Look at each of these lines and let them represent a level of vibration. Okay? Really think. We refer to each level of vibration as a frequency. Okay? Now, your cell phone, we keep talking on this because everybody's got one, operates on a frequency. But everybody's cell phone operates on a frequency. Now, we've talked about this before. It's the repetition that sinks the idea in your mind. Okay? When you get on another person's frequency, you're one with them, magic happens. Because you're communicating, you're on the same frequency. It's such a beautiful thing to understand. Everything you want is also on its own frequency. You see, all we have to do is get on to the frequency of the good that we desire. When we do this, it starts to flow to us. Now, a good part of today's lesson is going to be focused on money. And I think that's something you'd all like to attract. But keep thinking. Look at your present results right now. You can only attract what you're in harmony with. So take a look at your income. Take a look at your income right now. If you're in sales, take a look at your sales. I don't care what you're doing. Take a look at the results. That's telling you the frequency that you're living on. We can adjust the frequency. You can, I can. Now, most people have difficulty taking it ahead and have any difficulty going back, and they do that. It's like he said, you know, you can connect the dots looking backwards, but not forwards. Okay? So, energy attracts like energy. Now, what kind of a vibration are you in? What kind of a frequency are you operating on? Now, I really want you to play with this. I want you to think about it. Because you can do anything you want. I want you to make a decision to become one with what you want. And quit listening to people that tell you why you can't get it. Or you daydreaming? Or you crazy? You got to be logical. You got to be realistic. No, you don't. You do not. The Wright brothers were not realistic. Edmund Hillary went to the top of Mount Everest, the first guy that did it. He wasn't being realistic. Edison that illuminated the whole world, he wasn't being realistic. Listen, if you can see it in your mind, you can hold it in your hand, and that's what we're talking about. It's all done by law. Now look it. We talked about this. There's your thinking mind. And what we want to do in this session that we're going through from Monday to Friday, we want you to build a new image of yourself. It doesn't mean that you're not doing well. It means that you're going to do better. That's all it means. I want you to see in your mind yourself doing what you really want to do. Make up your mind. Now we know that our senses, we're going to get bombed, and bingo, negative's going to come flying in here. Why? Because we attract it relative to the new image. Okay? So we've got to stop that. How do you stop it? Well, you make a decision. When you make a decision, you just block that out of your mind, and then you let yourself get emotionally involved in this new picture. And just look at that for a moment. You're building an idea in your mind, and you're letting yourself get emotionally involved with it. Isn't that what the actors do? They get a script. They read the script. They reread the script. They memorize the script. They internalize the script. And they become one with that script. That's what we're talking about here. Become one with the good that you desire. When you do that, everything starts to change. There yesterday, it's gone. Now, is it really gone? No, it's not gone. It's like Werner von Braun says, nothing disappears without a trace. But it's gone from controlling us. We are changing the paradigm. We're doing it through our own conscious choice. We're making up our mind we're going to go where we really want to go. Now keep this in mind. We've got to know what attitude is. We've got to have the attitude of gratitude, and we've got to see ourselves as wealthy individuals. Prosperity should be your way of thinking. When this power flows in, you create thoughts. You literally create thoughts. Or power flows into our consciousness, and we literally start to think. We activate our imagination or our reasoning factor, and we start to choose thoughts. Now, when we do that, we impress them upon our subconscious mind, but we also send them off into the universe. Now, whatever you send into the universe sends right back at you. And when it's coming back, that's your law of attraction. Now, stay with me here. This is so important. Those feelings then are expressed with and through the body, but you also shove them off into the universe. You often pick up another person's feeling. You'll be with them sometime, and maybe something really phenomenal has happened. They say, what's happened? Share it with me, tell me. Just their thought of it, you picked it up. Okay? Now, because those feelings went into the body expresses and produces the results that you're getting. So it's bingo, 1, 2, 3, thoughts, feelings, and action. See, your attitude is the composite of thoughts, feelings, and action. You want to build an attitude that you're prosperous. Start to see yourself with what you really want. See yourself with the good that you desire. Build the image in your mind and get emotionally involved with it. That's how desire is built. Desire is the idea that's been planted in the subconscious mind that you keep feeding. And so the idea grows. That's what desire is. Waddell said it's the effort of the unexpressed possibility within, seeking expression without through your action. And that's how desire works. Now look it. We want you to go after your goal. We want you to go after a big goal financially. In other words, get up on the high wires. Don't mess around with anything down there. Got to make a decision, and it must be a committed decision. Then you want to discipline yourself, and that's giving yourself a command and then following it. So you're making a decision, And then you're disciplining yourself to execute that decision. Okay? Now, this is all done with the mind. The mind separates you from all other life. This is you. You're an individualized expression of an infinite power. And when it comes to money, there's an infinite source of supply. That's the most accurate tool to measure results. You can measure money to the penny. Now, you can go to a doctor and you're going to find out whether you're healthy or not. And the doctor said, you're in great shape. That's happened to many people. They walk right out and drop dead. They weren't in great shape at all. See, health isn't something you can measure as accurately. You just can't do it. But money, you can measure it to the penny. So you know whether you're progressing or not. You can say, well, I feel better, so I must be pretty good. No. But with money, it's to the penny. So you take a look at your income, and if your income is not continually going up, if it's not just continually growing, you're not following the laws properly. You're just not doing it. And now this is where Fuller comes in again. He said, you never fight things by you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change things, you have to build a new model. And that's what we want you to do. Build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. In other words, control the flow of the thought energy. Let it flow freely to and through you. Improve. Now, you can do this and zero right in on money. And that's what we're talking about today. You say money's not everything, and I never said it was. But I'm going to tell you something that's very important. Now, think of, and you function on frequency, okay? Now, look at this. I'm going to show you something else. See this? This is energy too. If you get on the frequency this is on, you can't stop it coming. What did he say in here? He said when the money starts coming, it'll come so fast and furious, you're going to wonder where it was hiding through all the lean years. And he's right. Most people don't understand that. They do not understand. They think you've got to go to work. You just got to work a little harder. Get out there, put in more hours. Wrong track. Now look it. Einstein gave us some wonderful information. He said the intuitive mind, that's the higher faculties, is a sacred gift. The rational mind's a faithful servant. That's our senses. Okay? Created a society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. Well, we want to start using these higher faculties. That's how you're going to create the wealth. Now, I showed you this yesterday, and I'm going to touch on it once today. But I want you to get this. I want you to copy this down. And I want you to pay attention to it. And you just repeat this over and over and over again. Genevieve B. Rand was a student of Thomas Troward. Thomas Troward, I believe, is one of the greatest authors of the last 500 years. This is one of his books that I have in a book stand here in front of my desk. I read those 2 pages every day, have for quite a while. Thomas Troward's work. Well, Genevieve B. Rand was his only student. She had to attract $20,000 in 1912 to go and work with him. And it's through studying what I'm putting on the screen here that enabled her to do it. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to grasp this overnight. You've got to keep reading it over and over and over. My mind is a center of divine operation. What do you mean, my mind's a center of divine operation? Now, think about this for a moment. Everything has a center. If I have a basketball, there's a point in that ball that's center, and that's determined by the outer side of the ball. There's a point in this room that's center, and that's determined by the outer measurements of the room. But when you get to the divine, when you get to God, to spirit, there is no outer measurements. You're talking about infinite. When you're talking about infinite, any point is center. My mind is the center of divine operations. So is yours. So is your next door neighbor's. My mind's the center of divine operation. Now, the divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. The divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. And this means the production of something beyond what has gone before. This is not a repeat performance for you. We're going somewhere where you've never been. Remember when we told you that X out there? Well, the X out there is a place. If your imagination takes you there, you went somewhere. That is a place. And you can grow into that. You can. This means the production of something that's gone on before, beyond and has gone on before. Something entirely new. This is true creativity. Something entirely new, not included in your past experience. However, though it's proceeding out of your past experience by an orderly sequence of growth. Now listen to me for a minute. Do you know that everything that's happened in your past has been necessary for you to get where you are? You know, all the good times and all the bad times, they're all necessary. Every one of them. Everything that's happened has contributed to the conscious awareness that you have. So, this is going to be something new that you're bringing about. It's something that's not included in your past experience, though it is proceeding out of your past experience by an orderly sequence of growth. You see, it's what you've done to this point that enables you to see how to go further. This is such a phenomenal piece of literature. Therefore, since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, see, the laws of the universe were not man-made, so they can't be changed by man. Winter always follows winter. Always. The night always follows the day. Think of this. Since the divine cannot change its inherent nature, now pay attention, it must operate in the same manner in me. Consequently, in my special world, of which I am center, it's going to move me forward to produce new conditions, always in advance of any that has gone before. If and when I get in harmony with this power, that's what's going to happen. I would recommend you write this down. It may be out of the park to you right now. It's going to be closer than your breath if you keep studying it. This I know to be true. I've worked with it for many, many years. Okay? Now, one of the laws is the law of compensation. Your income is governed by law. Yet it's a law that you're never going to change. The law of compensation is very clear. This law clearly states that the amount of money you earn is always going to be in an exact ratio to three things. Number one, the need for what you do. Number two, your ability to do it. And number three, the difficulty there'll be in replacing you. Now, pay real close attention to those three steps. I'm telling you, I feel blessed. I truly do. When I read this, and I couldn't stop reading it, and I'm still reading it. I was living in England. I was earning all kinds of money. I owned a company. We operated in 7 different cities in Canada, the U.S., and England. And I left that, and I took a job for $18,000 a year. I wanted to work with Earl Nightingale. I had an innate awareness that that's what I was supposed to do. Everyone was telling me I was crazy. Well, I didn't know it at the time, but I was following my feelings. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. I really believe I was guided. I truly do. Because I'm in an industry now, I believe this is the highest paid industry in the world. I don't believe anyone can earn as much money as we can earn. Now, are there people earning more money than us? Absolutely. But you know something? When we really lock into this and do it, we're going to earn more. Why? First thing, it's the need for what we do. Do you know what I've learned over the past 60 years? What we're doing, people need all over the world. I've been to Kota Kinabalu. Used to be Borneo, a part of Malaysia, way off on the coast. I've been down to Buenos Aires. I've been in Shanghai. in London, England, in Dusseldorf. Everywhere we've gone, they need what we've got. You need this. You may not know you need it, but you need it. You need to have an understanding of what makes you tick and how you can move ahead. It's the need for what you do. Second, your ability to do it. And third, the difficulty there will be in replacing it. Now, here's what Earl Nightingale taught me in spades. He said, Bob, all you have to focus on is the second step, your ability to do it. He called this the formula.